Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Everyone, welcome to today's presentation, which is continuation of Surah Yusuf, chapter 12, verses 79 to 92. And these are the references and our contact in case anyone has a question or query. Where are we in Surah Yusuf? I'll just provide a quick overview. Having been through challenges in his life after facing his brothers and the caravan people, Yusuf landed in Egypt in the palace of Aziz. He acquires an eminent self by following the guidance of Wahi and reaches the state of being among Muhsineen as defined by Allah in the Quran. After spending some years in Egypt, he reaches adulthood and is now ready to face the next major challenge of his life in a non-Deen society. So we know that non-Deen societies always present a certain kind of challenges to Mu'mineen, and we have to be aware of them. The wife of Aziz and her companions try to molest Yusuf against his own self. Yusuf stands up to evil firmly and steadfastly, and as a consequence lands up in prison. Next is in the prison, he further develops himself by gaining more experience through interacting with fellow prisoners. He professes his firm iman in Allah and his law and informs others about it. One of the prisoners whose dream Yusuf interprets successfully returns to the king by getting his job back as a manager of drinks in the palace. The king dreams a vision and Yusuf interprets it for him via this ex-prisoner. Yusuf gets his case with the ladies investigated by the king and is proved to be innocent of any crime. The king invites Yusuf to discuss the issues facing Egypt, and Yusuf takes over the responsibility of managing the economic affairs following agreement with the king. Thus he gets established as Aziz in Egypt, i.e. possessing power. During the years of famine, we remember that king had dreamt of 7 years of good crop and 7 years of famine. That was the interpretation given by Yusuf. So the first 7 years, Yusuf managed to get good crop, and then the 7 years of famine started as he had predicted. During the years of famine, Yusuf's brothers also come to get grain for their family. Yusuf meets them and gets an update about his family in Canaan. He asked them to bring their younger brother, who is Yusuf's real brother, next time, and when they come with him, one of these brothers stores the royal measuring goblet in the sack of Yusuf's real brother. We have gone through the details of this. As a punishment, Binyamin is held back for allegedly stealing his goblet. Binyamin is the name of the younger real brother of Yusuf. Now the brothers implore Yusuf to allow Binyamin to return home with them. Yusuf, however, has to do justice. So this is where we are. The next verse is Yusuf does justice based on the apparent evidence. I've written apparent evidence because what happened was not known until it was investigated. قال معاذ الله أن نأخذ إلا من وجدنا متاعنا إنه إنا إذا ظالمون. Yusuf said, Allah forbid, how is it possible that we release this person from whom the stolen goods have been discovered and in his place capture someone who is innocent? If we do this, then this will be a blatant injustice. If you remember, his brothers had asked him to release the younger brother, i.e. Binyamin, and instead take some other brother in his place. But Yusuf over here says, no, I can't do that, because justice demands that the one from whose sack the goblet has been found, he has to be retained. Now, verse 79, there are some reflections which I thought I'll share with you. At this point, the whole situation is before Yusuf. Deep down, he wanted to retain his real brother in Egypt with him, mainly for the reason that he was not being well treated by his half-brothers. And if he let him return, then this mental torture will continue for some more time. His half-brother created this opportunity by doing wrong, which turned out to be a favor for him. Yusuf did relate it to Wahi as noted by Allah earlier in verse 1276. Now, one more point over here which came to my mind was that if we remember in the case of Hazrat Musa, he prayed to Allah that his younger brother Harun to be associated with him as a companion so that he could carry out his task. So this is also a possibility over here that younger brother was retained because Yusuf knew that this younger brother is also influenced by Iman and by Wahi, and he will provide him moral support in his work which he was carrying out in Egypt. So this could also be added to that reason, because Allah has also said that Yusuf's grade went up because of this incident. That is, Yusuf's rank went up because of this incident, because he showed patience and remained composed. However, he knows that his father will definitely miss him as he himself is being missed by Yaqub. He has to overcome these emotive feelings and do justice based on the evidence presented to him, i.e. the goblet being discovered in the sack of his younger brother. He has to do justice and not allow any other feelings to override this decision. So this was a very difficult situation for him as well, because brothers were insisting that this younger brother is very closer to father, and they had given assurance to their father that he must come back. So all the royal staff is also around, and he has to remain firm in the greater interest of doing justice and to be seen doing it. This aspect is important, as any exception shown here will have repercussions under the law of requital in the future as the Aziz for him, and also including the effect on his own self. So the point over here, which I thought we need to be very, very focused, that we have to do justice. Once we achieve that kind of eminence, and we are following the Quran, and we have a responsibility, then everyone around going to be affected by the decisions which we make. And same goes within our own families as well, that we have to follow the Quran, whatever we are trying to profess in the light of the Quran as value system. So that is important for us. Now next is, brothers hold a meeting to decide next course of action. Because now brothers realize that Yusuf is not going to budge an inch, and he's not going to release their brother to go back with them. فَلَمَّا أَسْتَيَاسُوا مِنْهُ خَلَصُوا نَجِيًّا قَالَ كَبِيرُهُمْ أَلَمْ تَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ أَبَاكُمْ قَدْ أَخَذَ عَلَيْكُمْ مُوثِقًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَمِنْ قَبْلُ مَا فَرَّطْتُمْ فِي يُوسُفَ فَلَنْ أَبْرَحَ الْأَرْضَ حَتَّى يَأْذَنَ لِي أَبِي أَوْ يَحْكُمَ اللَّهُ لِي وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الْحَاكِمِينَ. Next is أَرْجِعُوا إِلَىٰ أَبِيكُمْ فَقُولُوا يَا أَبَانَا إِنَّ ابْنَكَ سَرَقَ وَمَا شَهِدْنَا إِلَّا بِمَا عَلِمْنَا وَمَا كُنَّا لِلْغَيْبِ حَافِظِينَ. The third verse is وَسَالِ الْقَرْيَةِ الَّتِي كُنَّا فِيهَا وَالْإِيرَ الَّتِي أَقْبَلْنَا فِيهَا وَإِنَّا لَصَادِقُونَ. So it's quite interesting here. So they came together and sat on one side, and now they put their heads together and started to discuss that what should we do next. When they became hopeless from the direction of Yusuf that he will not accept the request, they sat separately and began to consult with each other. The eldest of the brothers said, "You know that your father took a firm oath from you regarding Binyamin in the presence of Allah, and before this you have committed a gross injustice in the matter of Yusuf. Hence, at least I will remain here, will not go in front of father under any circumstances until father himself gives me permission to return home, or Allah makes some other decision for me. He's the best to make decisions." Now, this is very interesting that once they came together, the eldest brother, probably he was the one who had saved Yusuf previously as well, when he said, "Don't kill him, just leave him in a deep well." And over here he says that he reminds them now, see, the law of requital has come back to bite them. So he is reminding them that what you did to your to other brother Yusuf, and now this situation has also arisen. And this is not right, because if I go back, I will have to face father, and he had taken commitment from us that you will protect him. And we don't know what has happened over here. Obviously, this elder brother doesn't know that one of his other brothers has done it. You go back to father and tell him that your favorite son has gone and committed a theft. Now, very interesting over here that this, he also says that you go back and tell him that your son, not our brother. This is very interesting. Even when they addressed Yusuf, they also said that his father. So over here again, they associate this younger brother of theirs to their father rather than to their own selves. And this speaks volumes about the relationship among these brothers. In a foreign land, there is no doubt that we had made a commitment to you to protect and guard him, but we could only supervise him in those affairs which occurred within our knowledge. In these kinds of affairs which he hid from us and started to do, how could we take care of him? Fair enough. He said that if you go and tell father that your son has done this, but as far as he was concerned, he didn't know under what circumstances and how this goblet got into the sack of a younger brother, that is Binyamin. Next is, you can ask those inhabitants where this incident took place. So he also says that we only know this much, and there were people all around. Others were also taking grain from this particular station. So go and ask them as well what happened, because the word spreads around. Or ask those people of the caravan with whom we have come here whether we are speaking the truth or telling a lie. Now, this is just to support their case, but really it was between few people, that brother who put the goblet over there, and Yusuf knew it, and Binyamin knew it. Binyamin definitely knew it, that he did not do it. Yusuf also knew from Binyamin that he did not do it. So this is the situation over there. These two verses, 80 to 82, that is 3 verses, I put down some further reflections here. The brothers realize the gravity of the situation as they have to go back and face their father regarding their younger half-brother, which is with whom they have little real sympathy, that he is being held back. Now, these brothers did not have any sympathy towards this younger brother. For them, okay, fine, he is retained over there. The issue was that they had given a commitment to their father, and they also knew that they had given a commitment previously as well when Yusuf disappeared. This points to some degree of moral influence that Yaqub has on them. So this does indicate that they have some kind of a fear, deep down fear of their father. So father has some influence on them. However, notice the language used: tell father that your son has committed theft. And despite that, they are a bit sarcastic towards their father. Not that the goblet was found in the sack of our brother Binyamin, but we do not know how this occurred. Next is the eldest brother, who probably does not know of this plot, reminds them of the wrong they did many years ago to Yusuf. He seems to be carrying the guilt of this in his memory for all these years. So this is a terrible thing to live with, that guilt. So this is a point for us as well, that when we are living our life, we should try to follow strictly the permanent values, because if we do not, then those things, if we make errors, then those are going to become part of ourselves. And being Quranic, those are going to be in a very prominent position, state within our consciousness. He strongly feels that he does not have the courage to face his father after this episode regarding another half-brother. So he was a bit more sensitive, should we say he was a bit more conscientious. The brothers know that conveying this news to their father will not be accepted by him, and he will doubt their version of events. So they now want corroboration and cite potential witnesses from other caravans from their area who are also there to get help during the famine from Yusuf's arrangement for the disbursement of aid to affected people. Brothers communicate news to their father and its effect. The next verse is Qala bal sawwalat lakum anfusukum amran fasabrun jamilun asallahu an yatayani bihim jamiyan innahu huwal alimul hakim. Consequently, after this consultation, they reached their father, so they went back to Canaan, and now they have met their father. On hearing all of this, the father said, "No, Binyamin can never steal. This whole tale is an invention of yours, which your heart has narrated to you. Otherwise, the truth is something else." So Yaqub straight away rejects this story, this account, and he says, no, there is something else, what happened. But anyway, he is helpless. He has to listen to them. I will say the same about this, which I had said about the matter of Yusuf, that it is better for me that I take refuge in patience and fortitude and not let the family be divided. So again, he was in a very difficult situation, like the state he found himself when Yusuf disappeared, that he cannot accuse too much, his sons, he cannot accuse them, and because that will create more division within the family. But he being a man of Allah, he knows that things are not adding up. I have hope that one day Allah will cause me to meet them all, i.e. Yusuf, Binyamin, and the eldest son who had remained behind. So it is very interesting over here because he says, Asallahu yatayani bihim jamiyan. So he does not say two of them, but he says all three of them. So he's including Yusuf among them, which is very interesting because from this, what his sons narrated to him, he got the inkling that it is Yusuf who has retained them. This is because he knows everything and causes all affairs to reach their end with knowledge and wisdom. If you remember in our previous presentation, we had pointed to this, that Yusuf had told his brothers that once you go back, tell them that if you don't bring the younger brother with you, then you will not get grains or cereals from me directly, and you will not be able to access me. And now this thing again has happened. So Yaqub must have put it together. Now the next verse is وَتَوَلَّى عَنْهُمْ وَقَالَ يَا أَسَفَ عَلَى يُوسُفَ وَبَيَّضَّتْ عَيْنَهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. He turned his attention away from his sons. Obviously, he can't rely on the sons who have done now twice. And of course, they are not very sympathetic as well. A father would not like it that your son has done, because there is an acquisition in there. And this new wound made the memory of Yusuf fresh again. Then sighing, he said, oh, the pain of separation of Yusuf. We should keep it in mind that the situation is that whatever the case is, and he knows that Yusuf, he's going to meet Yusuf at some point in near future, but still being so far away from him for such a long time has caused grief or huzn. He used to remain distressed as a result of this trauma, and his eyes used to remain brimming with tears due to the intensity of grief. So we should be able to empathize with this situation and see that how painful it must be for Yaqub. Now verses 83-84, Yaqub receives the news about two sons and deals with this huzn. So this is real kind of a huzn, and the Quran has also used this term huzn. On their return to Canaan, the sons disclose the news to their father, and he does not accept their version of events. He simply cannot believe that Binyamin will commit theft. It is just inconceivable. However, the fact is that he has not returned together with the elder brother. Now he has to deal with three sons missing, i.e. Yusuf, Binyamin, and the eldest son who preferred to stay back as a result of this incident. He isolates himself because he has to feel isolated, because previously at least Binyamin was there and with whom he could share his worries and stress and grief, and reflects on the links in the chain of this whole account unfolding before him in his long life by going back to the disappearance of Yusuf and to what is taking place in Egypt. Observe his remark ending with two divine attributes of, so we should see that how he sums it up. Asallahu an yatayani bihim jamiya, that they are going to be together coming back. Innahu huwal alimul hakim, and I know Allah is alim and he is hakim. I have knowledge from him, and I know that everything what Allah does according to his laws has some kind of a wisdom behind it. There is an important point for our instruction here when we use the light of the Quran to study events in our life. So I put it down here that it should come to our mind as well once we are dealing with the events of our life, and we will reflect on that later on once we come to the end of this surah. Being a man of Wahi, Yaqub finds himself with no comrade. There is no sympathetic companion for him here in this very difficult state of huzn because of not being able to trust these sons who have no interest in the values of Wahi, because he is giving them message all along since the time Yusuf disappeared. I'm sure he must be giving them even before that, but they are not interested, are hiding facts from him and express very little compassion for him. He is missing Yusuf more than ever because now he has an indication that he is alive and hopefully will meet him very soon. An indication from Allah who is Alim and Hakim. Never let Saleh deeds go wasted. So he knows that those who have Iman and do Amal Saleh, their deeds never ever go waste. Yaqub rests his case with Allah as he always does. Sons with non-Quranic self cannot visualize what their father's being is starting to witness. So it is interesting over here in the next verse, Qalu ta'allahi tafta'u tazkuru Yusufa حَتَّى تَكُونُوا هَرَدًا أَوْ تَكُونُوا مِنَ الْخَالِقِينَ. So sons now see that father is isolated and keeps things to himself, and of course he is morose, he's sad. That must be very evident from his face as well, and the way he went around doing his work. Seeing this condition of the father, instead of consolation and support in his grief, the sons often used to say, will you leave this story, or will you constantly say, Yusuf, oh Yusuf? If you keep on doing this, then Allah is a witness, you will die of sorrow and grief, and if you do not die, you will certainly be part of the past. So instead of sitting with him and trying to explain to him, but they couldn't do it because they were the ones who had caused all this grief. So they were also in a sort of a dilemma that they have caused us this grief and they cannot solve this problem. And father also knows that these sons are the ones who have done it. There is a very difficult and a tense situation within the family. The sons do not appear to have much empathy with their father, though they appear to sympathize. It must be very hard for Yaqub to live in this stressful environment. The Quran provides insight into this state of affairs of the family and has guided us without becoming prescriptive. So for us, it's very important because we are also struggling within the environment in which we are living. And we do have relations, friends, and people who are known to us who do not follow the Quran or do not wish to even hear about the Quran. And we have to keep things to ourselves. And we should keep it in mind that what Yaqub did. So there is a great lesson for us in his conduct and in his character. While they appreciate his being alive, they only look at his physical existence and do not perceive or acknowledge his feelings, sentiments, his emotional need to be heard and attended to, and the grief he feels due to the absence of Yusuf and now of two other sons. When he laments over Yusuf, none of them is prepared to commiserate with him because they are the ones who are at the root of this tragedy and so do not wish to think or talk about it. They are stone-hearted, and this has only intensified as a consequence of their deeds. So what happens is when people keep doing wrong, then their hearts become very hard because they get the practice of overcoming their any little feelings which are countering the bad deeds they are doing. So this is the point which we should keep it in mind, that people who do not come to the Quran and reject the message, it is very difficult for them to later on at some point to come to the Quran, because their hearts become very hard, and Quran has also pointed to this fact. The Quran continuously draws our attention as cognitive beings to analyze events using our higher intellectual powers in order to make ourselves highly attuned and aware of the feelings, sentiments, needs, emotions, passions, motivations, desires, etc. of fellow human beings. Yusuf's self-made character is presented as a model. He possessed a highly developed self. Yaqub summarizes the vision of a moment in the light of Wahi. قَالَ إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ وَأَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. So that is the next verse. يَا بَنِيَّ أَذْهَبُوا فَتَحَسَّسُوا يُوسُفَ وَأَخِيهِ وَلَا تَعْصُوا مِنْ رُوحِ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ لَا يَعْصُ مِنْ رُوحِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. The father used to reply that I do not say anything to you people. I express my grief and pain in front of my Allah. This is because I know from Allah that which you do not know. Because he must be keeping very quiet and a bit isolated as well. And people who have some affection for their father, they would like him to be normal. And it's very difficult for Yaqub to stay normal. That is why the persistence of my hope does not become severed. I'm certain that one day my sons will surely meet me. I desire that the duration of this wait is not too long. Hence, O my children, go once again, find out something about Yusuf and ascertain the welfare of Binyamin. So now he says that you should go back a bit early. You don't have to wait till the cereals finish or grains finish. Never despair of the life-giving breeze of the rahmat of Allah. Only those people despair of this who do not have Iman in this law of his. I.e., if endeavor and deeds are on the right lines, then these never remain unrewarded. So this is an important lesson for us over here. Verses 86-87, Yaqub sums up his understanding in the light of the Wahi of Allah, a great lesson for us. So I put down some points over here, and I thought we can elaborate a bit more. At this stage, we need to visualize the state of Yaqub as a father who is not in possession of the full picture, hence he cannot have complete certainty. Yusuf, on the other hand, has the complete picture before him and is now in a position of full control with the ability to influence events relating to his family and also of Egypt. The brothers only know their side of events regarding the dastardly role which they have played relating to their ill conduct. Now, I will explain this point a bit more. That situation over here is that Yaqub does not have any information about Yusuf. He doesn't know what has happened to Binyamin and the brother who has stayed back. He's just hoping that this Aziz of Egypt is a good man and compassionate, and hopefully he will turn out to be Yusuf. But on the other hand, Yusuf is the only individual who has a complete picture of his family, what is happening in Canaan, and also he knows what is happening in Egypt. And it is a great position to be in, because that is how the situation ultimately turns out for Mu'mineen. Because they understand the world in which they live by using Wahi and through their own conduct, and that gives them peace. That gives them foresight that how the events are developing in front of them. Whereas the brothers only know their side of events because they don't make an effort. They are not men of Wahi. They are just living on day-to-day life and just pursuing their own desires. Despite not being cognizant of the full facts, with the light of the guidance of Wahi, Yaqub knows that Iman and solid deeds cannot go wasted as per the law. This is an important point for us, and we have gone through it in our previous presentations as well, and we should keep this recipe in mind all the time. The Aziz of Egypt appears to be a just man with a compassionate heart and good values, hence Binyamin will not be treated harshly due to theft. The elder son is also in safe hands. There it appears as if Yusuf is in a position of power in Egypt as per the signs. So this is the sort of a conclusion now which Yaqub has drawn from all these events. He ponders over this on his own in the light of Wahi and reaches this conclusion after a while that it appears that Yusuf has his brothers with him. So it takes time for these things to build up and we get certainty about events. Initially, some doubts come, and then gradually in the light of the Wahi, that is in our case the Quran, we get assurance from Allah that if we are following this path, then things will turn out to be in our favor. The thought does enter his mind that this may not be the case, but he counters it firmly by assuring himself in the light of Wahi that one must never be in despair from the rahmat of Allah. Counter thought will also be coming to his mind because he's not 100% sure till the time he sees Yusuf or gets a message from Yusuf that he is alive and both brothers are with him. So he is countering all those thoughts by having Iman in Allah. So that is the important thing for us, that we should never ever despair. Even in the worst of circumstances, we should never despair from the rahmat of Allah. He finally reaches a conclusion and tells his sons to go back and bring all three back, a great lesson for us too. Now, brothers arrive back in Egypt and are confronted by the law of requital. Now, this is very interesting here. The next verse is فَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ قَالُوا يَا أَيُّهَا الْعَزِيزُ مَسَّنَا وَأَهْلَنَا الضُّرُّ وَجِئْنَا بِبِضَاعَةٍ مُزْجَاةٍ فَأَوْفِ لَنَا الْكَيْلَ وَتَصَدَّقْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْزِي الْمُتَصَدِّقِينَ. Now, consequently, they again went back to Egypt and said to Yusuf that now brothers have come back and now they are meeting Yusuf at that particular station where they are given those grains. Oh Aziz, very hard days have come upon us and our family. It was not our intention to come to you again, but what can we do? We have become extremely helpless and powerless. So physical circumstances of famine has made their life very difficult. And now they are in that situation where they implore to Yusuf. We only have this paltry amount which we have brought with us. Please accept it and do not consider it as a matter of the formal affair of business. Instead, allocate to us a full load of grain as alms. Allah gives a noble award to those who help others. So it is very interesting. وَتَصَدَّقَ عَلَيْنَا. Now the explanation of this is very interesting, that if they had enough money, then they did not have to implore Yusuf. They did not have to request him or literally in a begging state saying that we are in a helpless situation, because they would have given the amount and got the grains. But over here, the situation is they do not have enough money. And since they do not have any money, they have to say, وَتَصَدَّقَ عَلَيْنَا, that have kindness on us and give us more than what we can pay for. And that is an important point, that in a system which looks after human beings, the rububiyyah, we have to keep it in mind that sometimes people cannot do enough work to earn their living, and that has to be compensated as a ihsan. So the system should take care of it. And that is why they say, Inna Allaha yazdil mutasaddiqeen, that we have seen that you are what kind of a person you are. You are one of those who do good to others. Now, this is a stage where now Yusuf has to come out and disclose his real identity. Qala hal alimtum ma fa'altum bi Yusufa wa akhihi is antum jahilun. Hearing this, Yusuf's heart filled up, and he did not consider any further delay to be necessary. Now, and he tells them to them, he said, do you remember what you did to Yusuf and his brother as a result of ignorance and foolishness? So now Yusuf confronts them, but in a very polite manner. And this is very important for us, that he is not harsh towards them. He says, is antum jahilun. Yusuf finally discloses his identity. I put in some comments here. Verse 1288 sums up the condition of Yusuf's brothers in terms of their economic plight and the effect of their weak inner selves. They are now feeling very vulnerable and downcast, and this state is reflected in the way that the Quran has noted. They're addressing Yusuf by stating, "O Aziz, there is a lot here for us to profoundly reflect on. They have insufficient money to buy the grains, otherwise they would not have had to implore Yusuf." The use of the word "saddaqa alayna," since they do not have enough money, hence they are in need of some kind of remedy to fill this deficiency. This is the perpetual state of human beings under the man-device system. So over here, the point is that due to famine, they are facing this situation. But if we look around in our world, this is the situation which most human beings face in the world. Over there, this would not have been the state if there had not been a famine. Next verse is in verse 1289. Yusuf had carefully thought out his reaction in advance about when he is going to confront his brothers, and hereby saying, is antum jahilun, that you did it when you were not fully aware, you were not certain that the law of requital works, and you were following your desires, the base desires. He has mitigated the effect on them to some extent, i.e. they had behaved in this way when they were ignorant of the consequences of their actions, that these will come back and bite them at some point in time in the future. So this is important for us, that whatever, as those who following the Quran, that we should anticipate the situation or states in the light of the law of requital and not react emotively. So he reacted very rationally in the light of Wahi and told them, is antum jahilun, and mitigated this, because the situation has come where now he is telling them that I am Yusuf and you remember what you did to us. Yusuf sums up the word of Allah's Wahi by saying, Innahu man yattaki wa yasbir fa inna Allaha la yudiyu ajral muhsinin. Now over here, there are two parts of this verse, which is next one. I'll just first read it. Qalu innaka la anta Yusufu. So this is what the brothers say. Qala ana Yusufu wa haza akhi. So Yusuf replies them, Qad manallahu alayna innahu man yattaki wa yasbir fa inna Allaha la yudiyu ajral muhsinin. So they said, oh, are you Yusuf? Really Yusuf? So just imagine that what is the situation over here. That Yusuf has disclosed his identity and they are taken aback because they were not expecting him to be there. He said, yes, I am Yusuf and this is my brother Binyamin. From your side, you had left no stone unturned in order to destroy us, but Allah has been very bountiful to us. Qad manallahu alayna. So interesting over here is that he is saying that Allah has been kind on us. Manallah, that he has got his blessings and bounties and rahmat on us. And it is a fact that whichever individual saving himself from the wrong paths of life remains on the righteous path, and whatever difficulties appear on this path confronts them resolutely. So over here, innahu man yattaki wa yasbir. Yattaki is that we are muttaki now, and we are also among the sabirin. So yattaki wa yasbir, these two are indicating that we have attained a very high level of self-development. Then he does not let the endeavors of these people who live a balanced life go to waste. And then he sums it up by saying, Inna Allaha la yudiyu ajral muhsinin. If we remember previously, Allah had said the same, that those who are muhsinin, their efforts are never wasted. And this is something which we should keep it in mind. Once we come to the end of this surah, we will look at it again. قَالُوا تَاللَّهِ لَقَدْ أَسْرَكَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا وَإِن كُنَّا لَخَاطِئِينَ. So now brothers replied to him. Hearing this, their heads became bowed with shame and mortification. Of course, it must be a terrible state for them to be faced with this situation that Yusuf is alive. They said, by Allah, he has truly given you superiority over us, and we are certainly great offenders. Now, this is something which came to their mind, and I have done further reflection on that in next slide. What are hands sent forward? Now, over here, I've drawn a schematic that this is the highway of life on which we are going from our birth towards our death. And Quran has said, وَخَلَقَ اللَّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بِالْحَقِّ وَلِتُجْزَى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. That Allah created the heavens and the earth as haqq, as truth, in which the results always are towards the positive outcome. وَلِتُجْزَى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ. And if human beings do good, وَلِتُجْزَى, that Allah has created it in a way that each self who does something, kasabat, and takes any actions during their life, they are recompensed for whatever they do. Wahum la yuzlamun, and system is so comprehensive, so precise and accurate that nobody is treated unjustly. We have gone through this verse previously as well. And over here, what I've done is I put down these Yusuf, his father Yaqub and Binyamin as one group, and the second is Yusuf's brothers. And we'll look at it, that what is going on in their life. And over here I've quoted a verse, ذَلِكَ بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَاكَ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَيْسَ بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعِبَادِ. So the Quran says this is because of the deeds your hands sent forward. So what I've tried to depict over here is that Yusuf is also sending something forward, and Yaqub and Binyamin are also sending something forward for the future, and Yusuf's brothers are also sending something forward based on this verse. For verily Allah is not unjust to his servants, and we know that Allah does not do injustice to anyone. فَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. So brothers are doing their deeds. Of course, they are doing some good as well. That is why they have a still means of sustenance, and their father is and father, and they are living together in that family. But they are doing something bad as well. So these arrows indicate that they are continuously sending from here something forward, something forward. And then we reach a stage, Yusuf's brothers sending forward their deeds. So this is schematic, indicates that they're sending their deeds forward. Now what Yusuf does is that Yusuf, Yaqub and Binyamin, they have also done a lot of good, and particularly Yusuf has done a lot of good during the period in which Yusuf's brothers are also behaving not very nicely. Yusuf becomes Aziz as a Mohsin, his wish is granted. So this is the stage which I have indicated with this arrow, where Yusuf becomes Aziz and starts dealing with the economic situation of Egypt. And then now he works hard. In next 7 years, Yusuf confronts the brothers' deeds meet up with their doers. So this is the point where he is now meeting his brothers, and Yusuf's deeds are meeting with brothers' deeds. So this is the way I try to look at it, that law of requital is sending everything forward, and now this is the meeting point in the light of this verse. ذَلِكَ بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَاكَ. So Quran says whatever you're sending forward, at some point you are going to meet the consequences of your own deeds. And then the Quran says, Ya laytani qaddamtu li hayati. Ah, would that I had sent forward for my life. And this is the state of his brothers, that we wish that we had not done what we did, and we will be facing this situation over here. Now, some comments on those two verses. Yusuf sums up the permanent value of La yudiyu ajra al-muhsinin. Finally, the moment arrives which Yusuf was patiently and steadfastly waiting for many years to confront his brothers with their deeds. He sums up this moment by stating first, Qad manallahu alayna. Then he says, Innahu man yattaqi wa yasbir, and concludes it by declaring La yudiyu ajral musini. Notice the use of the pronoun us here. So what he's including himself, his brother, and his father as well. And this is important for us, that he says that despite the fact that all of you had come together against us, and now the situation has come where our good deeds and your bad deeds have got a meeting point. This is declared by the Quran to be true in all times. places and for anyone who follows this process of acquiring these attributes. And Quran has stated, وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَا يَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ, as in 24:55. As we know, the Quran lays down the complete procedure and criteria for this, and understanding this is our fundamental responsibility as students of the Book of Allah. Because Allah has said that Iman and Saleh deeds, if they are done as Quran has spelled them out, then a stage will come where you will get established in the earth. So this is an important point which is coming out of this account of Hazrat Yusuf. Verse 1291 has an important point which needs a very profound reflection. The word used is asaraka, which means that the brother said that though we were all provided with the same environment and had the same family, we failed to take advantage of this, while you, Yusuf, made full use of it. And as a consequence, you now hold an exalted status, evidence-based, while we demeaned ourselves through our own hands. Asaraka is leaving signs behind. So what they are saying is that though we started our life in the same family, with the same provisions, with same parents, or at least the same father, our paths got separated, and you have gone and risen far higher and far ahead than we because we did not make use of it. This way you, that is Yusuf, have become very eminent and have achieved distinction in your character. This points to the inner feelings of being left behind in the race of life. Same house, same family, but have left different signs on the earth. Both these verses need a secure place in our consciousness, reminding us to derive the maximum benefit from Allah's book and to keep asking the question, what else can we do individually, wherever we are, and what can we do on the platform of TOLU-E-ISLAM? Are we aware of the criteria laid down by the Quran all the time in whatever we do? And am I fully aware of my thinking as was Yusuf of his? And finally, we can clearly witness that whatever Yusuf did under the guidance of Allah's Wahi is in the realm of possibility for us. We are committed to this path on this platform. We have seen it that whatever he is doing, we all can do it. The circumstances could be different, challenges could be different, but values are the same. A statement by Yusuf needing a profound reflection. Qala la tasriba alaykum al-yawma yaghfirullahu lakum wa huwa arhamur rahimin. Now, this is a beautiful reaction from Yusuf in the light of Wahi and a great instruction for us in this verse. Yusuf said, "Go, I do not reproach you anymore. Whatever you did against me, I forgive you for that. But what you did against your own self as a result of this, who can forgive you for that? The only recompense for that is that by living life according to the divine laws, you come under the protection of Allah. By compensating you for the deficiency which occurred in yourselves as a result of these crimes, He will cause it to develop. He is the best of nourishers and sustainers." Now, the timeline over here, I have drawn another schematic timeline of development for the self of Yusuf and his brothers. Now, time over here, I put down a figure of 30 years. It could be less, it could be a bit more, but we can, generally it means that a lapse of time has occurred. Because of Yusuf, exactly the same family, plus environment, same start, different choices. So they are living together, but different choices. They did not accept the guidance of Wahi from their father, suffered from jealousy, prejudice, vindictiveness, sarcasm, lies, hypocrisy, harshness, disrespect, hatred, allying with each other in rancor and wrong, low level of conscientiousness, lack of responsibility, egocentric, not conscious of the law of requital, lived a very flat structured life and themselves kept degrading with time. Now, all these points which I put down over here are, I have tried to take them out of Surah Yusuf, and we can always add to them or maybe take them out in case I have made a mistake. Yusuf dreams, accepting guidance. If we remember the verses right from the start of Surah Yusuf, so he is going step up with as he is living his life. Next is he become Mohsineen. If we remember that Allah has declared him to be among Mohsineen when he is in palace. And then he faces the challenges. Of course, he must have faced the challenges previously as well. The biggest challenge he faced was when he was dropped into a well. And Iman and Saleh deeds, he keeps doing it despite the fact that he is facing these challenges. And he becomes Alim, Hafiz, and Aziz. And then he establishes some kind of a model of rububiyat, and he does adl, and he is Ghafoor. And see, he's given protection as well to his brothers. He said, I'm not going to la tasriba alaykum al-yawma, that I'm not going to hold you accountable for this, because you have already suffered, your self has already suffered tremendous loss if you realize it. So this is how it is. And see how steep the path is for him. Gradually, step by step, step by step. This is why, if you remember, we have discussed in our meetings that one step, a small step every week, every month means a lot at the end of the year. And if we spend our life like that, then there is no way that our deeds will go wasted. And see the difference between this path, which is very flat, and this path, there is a huge difference between the two. Verse 1292 needs further analysis. First is Yusuf announces to them that La tasriba alaykum al-yawma, that this day I'm not going to hold you accountable. This day I do not take this matter any further. I.e., this ends here. In this statement, tasrib needs our attention. Tasrib means there is an important clause in the use of this term, which means that not only do I forgive and forget about what has happened so far, together with this, there will never be any further mention of it in our future dealings. So if we look at its meanings, and Allama Pervez has beautifully explained it in his dars on this verse, that what it means is that I have forgiven you and this will never be mentioned again. That if some mistake you make in the future, and I will again tell you and accuse you, remember what you did. So this is buried now as if we have nothing to do with it anymore. And this is important. In a system of deen, if we want people to come out of the mistakes of their past, we have to give them a slate which is completely erased. Because it was when they were jahil, they were ignorant, then they made those mistakes. Now we have to move them forward so that they don't have a burden and that guilt which will slow them down. Making it a completely clean slate with his brothers, so that if they have realized their error in past judgments and conduct, then they can make a fresh start with their life without the burden of the past, though it is very challenging. And this is part of our self-development. This aspect is an important part of the justice system of deen, where all aspects of any crime and mistakes are taken into account. For example, here, despite the fact they had attempted to harm Yusuf and later his brother, events went in his favor, and as a consequence, he faced the challenges of life using the guidance of Wahi and reached the apex of his human career in this life. Whatever they did, because he was among the Muslimin, the whole thing benefited him. And he faced those challenges. As a result, he developed himself. As he developed himself, the physical world around him also changed, and it favored his ascendancy to a higher position of responsibility. So this is something very important, and we'll discuss it again at some later point. Secondly, as per the law of requital, since the consequences of our thoughts and deeds are inbuilt, they have therefore already suffered the effects in terms of their selves not becoming developed. So in a man-made system, this is not taken into account, but over here we have to take into account the effects on the self of somebody who is making mistakes, deliberate mistakes, and so we should take them into account. An important point of the justice system under deen. For us, there is a great lesson in this, that despite the unfavorable environment in which TOLU-E-ISLAM is progressing forward inch by inch and not giving up and having full iman in the Quran and system of deen, there apparently does not seem to be anything taking place, whereas we are developing ourselves despite being in a tiny minority. We have full assurance from Allah, as noted in the Quran. Very important for us. When I was putting down this point at the end of this slide, I was thinking through it, and I gave it a lot of thought, and I said that what instruction, what guidance we have from Allah for us. And these things, when Yusuf was in the prison, he didn't know that he's going to become Aziz, but he knew that his deeds are not going to go wasted, and Allah will never leave him alone. And our situation is the same. We are making this effort, and we are trying our best that whatever means are available to us within the constraints of the world and the society in which we are living. But we are not giving up. We need to take a tolerant and forgiving view of the world and humanity, but at the same time not to be distracted and remain steadfast, as Yusuf summed up, Innahu man yattaki wa yasbir. Yattaki is to avoid the pitfalls of the man-made system, and be very persistent and consistent and steadfast. Now, finally, I have drawn a schematic over here. I thought that this will be interesting. Rays emitted by the Uswa Yusufi, which is Yusuf as a model for us. And Yusuf is at the center. I've made it yellow, just saying that it represents some kind of a light. And the first one is he accepts Wahi. And if we relate to it, we have also accepted Wahi. Allah's Wahi, that is the Quran. Next is we firm resolve. He says, this is the truth and this is for me, I'm going to follow it. Then is he becomes Mohsineen, among the Mohsineen. And then first challenge comes to him, a major challenge against his chastity, and he faces it very squarely and comes out of it successfully. Then he becomes very aleen. So see, from accepting the Wahi, all through this, he is becoming aleen because he is making full effort to gain maximum knowledge about the man-made system. And then he becomes Hafiz as a result of that, because he's all protecting, he knows how to do things, and he also knows how to keep his integrity intact. And then he becomes Aziz. So all of this is giving him that power, because he's knowledgeable, he's Hafiz, he's Mohsineen, he's got some resolve, and he's got the guidance of Wahi. And he knows that Allah is with him. And then he becomes Sabir. And then he becomes Muttaqi as a result of that. It's difficult to isolate these things because all these things go together in our life. And then he does justice. Now this is a challenge he gets, just like chastity. And then he manages to run this model of Rububiyat in Egypt. And this is very glaringly visible. I've taken all these from whatever we have discussed so far. And with that, we come to the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for your time.